So, good evening, one and all, and good evening to our speaker, Professor Guru. So, his second lecture on this subject, Western political thought. In the first lecture, he gave us a talk on approaching Western political thought, and today he will enter into the Greek political thought with Plato. And this talk is actually the part of a course what he will teach after he will arrive India from America at the last part of November. Until that time, we are trying to cover up some portion of this course. And if one will see the syllabus, one will find in Module 1, political thought of Plato is there. And there Plato's ideal state, the republic, evolution and nature, the governmental structure and the role of philosopher king, the system of communism, the scheme of education, the concept of justice, and a critical estimate of Plato's political thought is there. I am not sure whether he will complete all these things in one lecture, in this 1 hour lecture. Uh, that's why I titled Political Thought of Plato Lecture 1. So let's see how many lectures he will take in order to complete the entire module. In that module I just spelled out these are the contents of that module under Plato's political thought. And at the same time, it is a urge from our students, especially PG first year students. They must listen this talk carefully because nobody is going to teach you this course. So it is your class and others are also taking the benefits of it. And it is my urge for my students, they must write down your doubts, question. So at the end of this talk, after 1 hour, you will raise your doubt and questions, and Professor Guru will answer to your questions. So there is no need of introducing Professor Guru because I have already done it earlier. And right now I'm going back to him so that he can directly start from where he wants to start. So thank you. Thank you all. Now I'm coming to Professor Guru. He can start his deliberation.
Yes. My dear students, assembled here to listen to my discussions on Plato's political thought. Plato's political thought, this topic, comes under your syllabus entitled Western Political Thought. And I have been requested by Himansu, your teacher in charge of Students' Affairs, to discuss the political thought of different thinkers as contained in your syllabus. I hope my discussions will benefit you. The discussions will not merely benefit you, it will also benefit the honors students in political science and students of political science elsewhere who are interested to know and learn and have a clarity of understanding on Plato's political thought. Yes, today's topic, as has been already assigned to me by Himansu, Plato's political thought. So far as Plato's political thought is concerned, it is a vast one. It cannot be discussed within the time limit of 1 hour. I would therefore like to reorganize Plato's political thought so far as the important aspects are concerned, spreading over 8 classes. This is the first class on Plato. And today, I would like to discuss on the life and works of Plato and the major sources of influence on him in the context of formulation and formation of his political thought. The second one would deal with the origin of state as conceptualized by Plato, the nature of state, the features of state. The third one on the government, the structure of government, the rule by the philosopher king or philosopher ruler. Third one on the concept and scheme of communism. Fourth one on the concept and scheme of education. Next on the concept and scheme of justice. And then evaluation of Plato's political thought so far as the contributions to mankind are concerned, and conclusion. This is the way I wish to discuss Plato's political thought spreading over 8 classes. So within a span of 1 hour, it is not possible. I hope you will bear with me and listen to the discussions attentively. Before I commence my understanding of Plato's political thought, I call it my understanding because what I understand so far as Plato's conceptualizations on state and state-individual relationship is concerned. Before I commence it, I would urge all the listeners, the students who are interested in understanding political thought of any thinker, whether he is Plato, whether he is Marx, whether he is John Rawls, whosoever he may be. If one is interested to understand the political thought of a thinker, he must give due attention to the referral points. In my introductory class, Approaching Western Political Thought, I've already spelled out the nature of political thought, the central themes of political thought, the major aspects of which it is composed, the scope of political thought, the approach which a thinker adopts or employs in formulating his political thought. So these major aspects that I've already discussed needs to be kept in mind as referral points in understanding the political thought of every thinker, including Plato. And in my earlier discussions, I would like you to recollect that we have defined a political thought as a coherent conceptual scheme, deliberately designed by an intellectual or a scholar or a thinker on state and state-individual relationship. On state and state-individual relationship involving origin of state, nature of state, end of state, nature of government, structure of government, functions of government, state-individual relationship involving issues like rights, liberty, equality, justice, and political obligation. These are the central themes. These are the central points. These are the referral points which must be kept in mind in our academic endeavor in inquiring into the political thought of a thinker and understanding his political thought. So I urge upon you to keep these points as referral points so that it may be easier for you to proceed in your academic understanding of the political thought of Plato as well as any other thinker, whether Marx or Rawls or anyone else. Moreover, before I discuss political thought of Plato, I would like to tell you, as a student, you are a student now, you are appearing at the examination. Your objective is to write something in the examination and to fare well. You have to understand the political thought first. You have to prepare for the examination and write correctly in the examination. So what is the pattern in which you must proceed? What's the procedure? While dealing with political thought of any thinker, the first aspect which a student is expected to know is the explanation part. First explain, understand his political thought, explain it. What he says. So do not jump to the conclusion at first. Understand what he says. What are his ideas? What are his conceptualizations on state and state-individual relationship? And the second part is your evaluation. You tend to find out the lacunae in it, the shortcomings, the limitations. That is what is known as critical appraisal. And the third part, conclusion. You must say whether you like it or dislike it, or whether you intend to bring about some reforms in it. What is your stand on it? So these are the three major parts in approaching political thought, in understanding political thought, in preparing political thought for the purpose of examination as well. Explanation, evaluation, and conclusion. So this also must be kept in mind. So do not be in a hurry to come to a critical estimate. First understand what he says, then criticize him if you so like, and then come to conclusion. This is how you must proceed from bottom gradually toward the top. Do not go to the top of the tree at first. Start from the root. Go to the stem, then come to the top. Then only clarity of understanding may be obtained by you, and you will prepare better for the purpose of examination as well. Yes, coming to Plato, Plato's political thought. As I've already told you, the first lecture would focus on the life of Plato, his works, his academic contributions, as well as the major sources of influence that have influenced him in the context of formulating his political thought, or affirming his political thought on state and state-individual relations. So far as Plato is concerned, Plato is considered or is acknowledged as the first political philosopher or political thinker of the Western world. This is the reason why we study Plato first in the context of our syllabus on Western political thought. He is acknowledged as the first political thinker, first political philosopher rather, of the Western world. Who was Plato? What was his nativity? When was he born and lived? What are the works or books he has produced? And in the context of designing his books, formulating his works on state and state-individual relationship, what were the major sources of influence? These aspects need to be understood clearly before we proceed to an understanding of Plato's political thought, focusing on state and state-individual relations. Plato, who is acknowledged as the first political thinker and philosopher of the world, by nativity was a Greek. He was born in Greece land, in Greece region of Europe, the then Europe. In ancient time, in 5th century BC, before the birth of Christ, in the year 428 BC. This is the year in which Plato was born in Athens, in the state of Athens in Greece. So by nativity, who was a Greek, because he was born in the Greek land, in the state of Athens, in Europe. He was an ancient political thinker because he was born in antiquity in 5th century BC. This was the time in which he was born. And he died in 347 BC. He lived for about 80 years, long 80 years. And what was the process of his life? Which interests us so far as his political formulation of his political thought is concerned. During his youth, he was born in 428 BC. During his youth, he came into contact with Socrates, who was considered as the then greatest man of knowledge and wisdom born on this earth. He came into contact with Socrates, accepted Socrates as his teacher, his mentor, studied under Socrates. And therefore, Socrates cast a tremendous influence upon Plato. Plato is indebted to Socrates, therefore, in the context of formulation of his ideas. And during his youth, when he was in constant or regular touch with Socrates, so far as his academic progress is concerned, or was concerned, in the city-state of Athens, there prevailed a democratic government. Democracy was there. And Plato was very much attached to politics because he was born in a very aristocratic family in the city-state of Athens. He was very much attached to politics as well because of family linkage. But during his youth, he became a bitter critic of the Athenian democracy, or the democratic government of Athens then prevailed or then existed. He was a bitter critic. He became a bitter critic. Why? Because in 399 BC, his teacher Socrates was ordered by the democratic government of Athens to die. This was the situation, which brought about a turning point in the life of Plato, and specifically in his academic orientations and conceptualizations. In 399 BC, Socrates, his teacher, his mentor, Plato's teacher and mentor, whom Plato considered as the greatest man of knowledge on earth, whom Plato respected very much, and Socrates also liked Plato very much as the most gifted of his students. This was the relationship between the teacher and student. So when in 399 BC, Socrates was ordered to death by the democratic government of Athens, Plato was shocked to the greatest extent. This was the turning point in his life, in his academic life. And he became a bitter critic of the Athenian government, democratic government. And after the death of Socrates, he traveled to a number of neighboring states, came back again to the state of Athens. In 386 BC, he established his own school in the city-state of Athens, the school which he named as the Academy. It was in that year, 386 BC, that Plato also completed his book, The Republic. See here. The book, The Republic, for which Plato is famous in this world. The book, The Republic, which we read as a coursework in the discipline of political science, was written or authored by Plato in 386 BC. The same year also, he established his academy there, started teaching the students in the city-state of Athens. From 386 BC, he not only continued teaching the students in the city-state of Athens, he also devoted himself to academic works. He wrote a number of books. The books are in the form of dialogues, what is famously known as Plato's dialogues. And in 367 BC, again coming to the next phase of his life, in 367 BC, he was invited by the neighboring states, the rulers of the neighboring states, especially Sicily, to come there to teach the then ruler there in the ideas and ideals of a philosopher king. The image or the attributes of philosopher kings that he has already described in his book, The Republic, influenced the ruler of the neighboring state of Sicily and also Syracuse there. So he was invited by the rulers of Syracuse, the state of Syracuse and the state of Sicily, to come there to teach the rulers and princes in the philosophical ideals of the philosopher king, in making the future rulers of their states. So in 367 BC, Plato went to the neighboring states, started his teaching, but within 1 year, he became totally disgusted. He could not implement his political ideals in reality. He didn't get the required response from the rulers who were his students there. He came back with frustration, he came back to the city of Athens and confined himself to his own academy, the school that he had established in 386 BC. And he started teaching again. In 347 BC, he died. This is the lifespan. I'm speaking briefly, the lifespan. So as a student of political science, you must know who was Plato, when was he born, where was he born, and what is the brief lifespan, academically speaking, for our purpose. And during his lifespan of 80 years, he produced a number of works, a number of books in the form of dialogues, out of which 3 books are extremely important, very important for us as students of political science. The first one is the book, The Republic. The second one is the Politicus, what is translated in English as The Statesman. And the third one is the Laws. These are the 3 books, Republic, Statesman, and Law. These are the three great books authored by Plato during his lifetime, for which he is acknowledged not merely as the first political thinker or philosopher of the world, but also the greatest political philosopher of the world. And out of these three books that he has written in the form of dialogues, the greatest one, the most important one, is his book, The Republic. The Republic is the greatest of his works because it contains and it represents the fullness of his political thought on state and state-individual relationship. Fullness of his political thought. It contains his ideals, political ideals, his concept of an ideal state. And that's why he has named the title of the book, The Republic. This is an English word, the Republic, derived from the Latin word res publica, meaning the state or the ideal state, the model state. And that is the reason why the Republic is considered to be the greatest achievement, the crowning achievement of Plato's political thought. And that is his greatest contribution to mankind. It is in that book, The Republic, we come across Plato's model of the ideal state, or Plato's concept of the ideal state. The state of his vision, what a state should be, is not at all concerned with what a state is. He is exclusively concerned with a model state, an ideal state, what a state should be for the benefit of mankind at large. And he prescribes his ideal state for emulation and approximation to mankind for realizing the goal of a best political existence for mankind on this earth. That's the reason why we are much more interested in his book, The Republic, and the model state of his vision that he has presented there, portrayed there, than other dialogues, whether statesmen's or laws or the Pythagoras or Protagoras or Georgias like that. The greatest of his dialogue, the most important of his dialogue is the Republic. And therefore, his model state, the model state of his vision, with its features, with its attributes, with the different segments and compositions, are included in the syllabus when we address ourselves to an understanding and perusal of Plato's political thought. Now, before we come to a discussion of Plato's political thought as contained in his book, The Republic, the model state of his vision, we must also bear in mind or have in mind that the approach of Plato in the context of formulation of his political thought is the deductive approach. It is the normative approach. It is the philosophical approach. It is the value-laden approach. Plato is not interested, he was not interested in the inductive approach. He employed the deductive approach, philosophical approach, the normative approach for formulating his ideas concerning the ideals of his model state or ideal features of his model state, ideal pattern of state-individual relationship as well. This is the background which we must keep in mind when we address ourselves to an understanding of Plato's political thought. And also in that context, for the purpose of clarity of understanding of Plato's political thought, in answering the questions why or as well, not merely what, but also why of his political thought. We must also glance at the major sources of influence on him. And we may note two major sources of influence. The first one is his master Socrates, whom he considered as the greatest man of knowledge ever born on this earth. So Master Socrates was of greatest influence on Plato in the context of formulation of his ideas and ideals. Therefore, Socratic teachings, the teachings of Socrates, are found to have a paramount place in Plato's political thought, especially in the context of his model state, the Republic. And when we address ourselves to this Republic, his model state, we must not misunderstand the term, misinterpret this term in the present sense of the term. What do we mean by Republic so far as the present sense is concerned? This is an English word, the Republic, by which we mean politically a state where the head of the state is an elected one. That's the meaning of the term Republic, but that is not, that doesn't hold true in case of Plato. In Plato's concept, the term Republic, the English word Republic, has been derived from the Latin word res publica, meaning the moral state, the ideal state. So Plato is not concerned as to whether in his Republic the head of the state would be an elected one. No, he's not concerned about it. So we must not have such misunderstanding when we approach to an understanding of Plato's political thought as contained in his book, The Republic. And in formulating his ideal concepts, in authoring that book, The Republic, the most important source of influence was Socratic teachings, the teachings of Socrates, his master, his teacher, his mentor. And what are the teachings of Socrates, which influenced Plato tremendously in the context of formulation of his political ideas on state and state-individual relationship? Socratic teachings are found to have been contained and mentioned by Plato through an allegory of the cave. Allegory of the cave. Allegory is a narrative. Allegory is a fictional story formulated by Plato himself, conceptualized by Plato himself. A fictional story in which a number of participants sit together and discuss on problems of the society. And in that group discussions, where dialogues takes place among the different participants, the convener of that group discussion was Socrates, the imaginary figure, not the actual figure, his teacher. So in that allegory of cave which Plato presents, the teachings of Socrates are found to have been manifested there. And what is that allegory of cave? It is a narrative which describes the picture of a cave in which there is complete darkness and number of individuals are chained there in different poles. There is no light within the cave. There is no door open. Darkness, complete darkness prevails there. No one is about to interact with one another because everyone is bound to a chain there. Everyone is chained to a pole without interacting with any other. There is darkness. No one is able to see anything. So that was the situation, that was the allegory, that was the narrative of the cave. So a number of persons who are in captivity there. But suddenly, Plato says, or he conceptualizes, a light flickers behind the men who are chained in that cave. There is some fire. And the individuals who have been chained to the poles, different poles, unable to see oneself, only see the shadow. The shadow which are produced by the firelight burnt behind them. So they see the shadows and they think that these are the actual figures who are chained in the captivity of the cave. This is the allegory. But Plato says through the mouth of Socrates, that imaginary figure in the dialogue, that the chained persons can know themselves what they are in reality. They can know one each other. They can know the entire universe which is outside the cave. Only when they would come out of the cave, come to the sunlight and see the reality. This is the allegory. So what is the message which is given here? Allegory is a narrative containing a hidden message. Plato, through the mouth of Socrates, tells us the teachings of Socrates. He says that you cannot know yourself. The objective of human life is to know oneself, know the world around. But we cannot know ourselves and the world around if we are under captivity and in darkness, chained to the poles. Therefore, what is necessary is we must come out of the cave, come to the sunlight, and try to explore ourselves what we are. See the world around us. Then only you can know the reality. By seeing the shadows on the walls, you cannot know the reality. You are in darkness as yet. Your knowledge is not complete, it is incomplete. You are ignorance, you are under ignorance. So Plato, through the mouth of Socrates, gives the message, this is the hidden message to the people at large, that you must free yourself from darkness. You must undertake endeavors to know yourself, that the very purpose of your life. Know the truth, what you are, why you are, what are around you. So search for truth, quest for truth is the ultimate or prime objective of human life. And that can be known through rational speculation, through contemplation, through meditation, through self-searching. So come out from darkness, come out from ignorance, contemplate, meditate, try to know yourself, try to take endeavors to find out the truth in life, the very purpose of your existence, the very purpose of human life, the very purpose of this natural creation, the earth. This is the message which Plato, through the mouth of Socrates, gives to the world at large. Therefore, the most important teaching of Socrates is manifested here. And the teaching, the substance of the teaching is virtue is knowledge. Virtue is knowledge. What is true knowledge? What is wisdom? Wisdom is virtue. If you know virtue, then only you can know. You can have true wisdom. This is the most important teaching of Socrates, which Plato inherited from Socrates, his master, during his studentship in younger age. That virtue is knowledge. And virtue can be known, he says. Yet knowledge has two different meanings. Virtue is not only the highest knowledge, but at the same time it can be known. You can know what is virtue, he says. And how? Through meditation, self-contemplation, self-introspection, through conceptualizations, speculations, cogitations. You can know the virtue. And what is that virtue? Virtue is the objective goodness of human life. Objective goodness is totally different from subjective goodness. Subjective goodness pertains to this human body. Therefore, subjective goodness is changeable, changes from time to time. It is not permanent. It is not universal. What is good for me may not be good for you. This is subjective goodness. Goodness which pertains to this physical world. Goodness which pertains to this physical body. So material goodness or physical goodness is the subjective goodness. But Plato says truth is not subjective goodness. Virtue is not subjective goodness. Virtue is the truth which must be sought for. Endeavors must be undertaken by human beings as human beings, because that is the very purpose of human life and existence. And that virtue is objective goodness of human life. Goodness which is universal, which is eternal, which is unchangeable, which is valid for all time and clime, which is not subject to change and flux, which is applicable for all individuals, all human beings, for all time, for all clime, for all regions. That is objective goodness. That is virtue. That is the truth which must be sought for, which must be searched for through contemplation, through self-introspection, through meditation, through the use of rational faculties. So rational speculation is necessary. You must think rationally. And we must undertake endeavors to find out what is objective goodness, which doesn't change at all, which is permanent and universal for all time and clime. So we can know it, he says. So virtue is knowledge in that sense also. It can be known through rational contemplation. It is the highest or ultimate goal of human being, human life. It is the truth, and it can also be known. And that is the ideal, and therefore it is the real. So what is the ideal of human life? Human existence. It is attainment of virtue, search for virtue, realization of virtue. That is the ideal. And that ideal is real because it is unchangeable. It is everlasting. It is universal. So these teachings of Socrates, that virtue is knowledge, ideal is real, these have been expressed and ventilated by Plato in that small dialogue, Allegory of the Cave, in which Socrates tells the participants, other participants in the dialogue, the truth of human existence, the ultimate goal of human life, and how it is to be searched for, obtained, and realized. This Socratic teaching has influenced Plato to the greatest extent in the context of formulation of his ideas and ideals, in the context of formulation of his concepts on state and ideal pattern of state-individual relationship. And simultaneously, Plato has been motivated to a very great extent to think of and conceptualize a model state of his vision. In conformity with the Socratic teachings, also because of his practical experiences during his own lifetime. And his practical experiences was very bitter. He found During his lifetime, during his youth, his master Socrates was put to death on a very flimsy ground of corrupting the youths, propagating new ideas, unconventional ideas. On that flimsy ground, the Athenian democratic government ordered Socrates to take poison by his own hand and to die. And Socrates did it, obeyed. And Plato therefore observed that in the democratic state of Athens, there was no justice. Rather, he found there, observed there, ubiquity of ignorance, ruled by ignorance as well, presenting themselves in the guise of men of knowledge and wisdom. He became convinced that his own city-state of Athens was being ruled by the ignorance. Political selfishness reigned high in political circles. Ignorance issues forth in political selfishness. So ignorance were ruling. They were ruling for their own selfish purposes. And the consequence were there was no civil discord. So there was no civil peace, order. There was no social harmony. So Plato observed the lack of civil accord, absence of social harmony and integration, lack of specialization of functions. Those who do not know they were ruling. Just as present we find those who do not know they were teaching. So unfit persons were in the positions of decision making. So Plato found it on the basis of his own experiences in the city-state of Athens. And at the same time, he got motivations again, the philosophical motivations from his master Socrates, and he used the teaching of Socrates for formulating a new state, a model state of his own, what he calls as the ideal state, the republic. His model state is named as the republic. And I've already told you, we must not misunderstand it or equalize it with the present day republic. No. This is the ideal state of Plato. So these are the two major sources of influence on Plato in the context of formulation of his ideas on the state and state individual relations. And in the context of formulating these ideas, as I've already told you, the method as employed by Socrates, Plato was the normative method, the philosophical method, the deductive method. Yes, with this background, we may proceed in our discussions on Plato's ideal state as contained in his book, The Republic. And that ideal state of Plato, the Republic, is basically founded upon his concept or assumption, fundamental assumption or postulates on human nature. So the concept of human nature is the foundational concept of Plato, the foundational concept on which he seeks to, or he undertakes his endeavor to design his model state, the Republic, the model state or the ideal state of his vision. And what is the concept of human nature? Should we continue? Himanshu?
I mean, sir, if you have completed your, 1 hour lecture, I mean, whatever you have planned to say within this 1 hour, we can stop, we can take some of the questions. Or
Yes.
if you will continue, then you have to enter into the, another concept. Maybe it will take near about
Yes, it
at
will
least
take
half
again
an
one
hour.
hour.
1 hour.
Minimum 1 hour.
So,
Yes.
so I think for Plato, you will take 8 hour classes.
Yes.
So within this first hour, I mean, within this 1 hour, if you have already said whatever you want to say, then we can stop it here.
Yes. Let us
We
stop
can
it.
take, we can take some of
We should not burden the students over. They may
okay,
be overburdened if I speak again for another 1 hour, because
okay,
it is time for the dinner, and they will miss the
okay,
dinner.
okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Uh,
I have
Students,
taken my breakfast. I have taken my breakfast, but you have to take your dinner there.
no, from 8:30 actually dinner is
And
starting. So
and my
then,
tea is getting cold. I have not taken even the tea.
okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your talk. I mean, if I will retitle this talk today, I will say that political thought of Plato, introducing Plato. So
Yes, introducing.
today you in fact introduced Plato from different angle and give us a sense that I mean this is a person in such a context he has produced the Republic.
Yes.
He has said whatever he wanted to say. So this context is very much essential for all students
Yes.
to understand why he has defined the human mind as reason, spirit, appetite, then
Yes.
communism of
Yes.
wife or property, whatever, then scheme of education, why the method was very much normative. So all this thing needs a understanding of context, the understanding of context of Plato. So today I think the speaker has spoken on that context. I hope that student will subsequently understand why Plato said whatever he has said. So
Yes.
it's a urge to the student to connect the succeeding lectures with the preceding lectures.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
Otherwise they cannot. They cannot understand.
I urge you to have a paper and pen with you so that you can note it down. And right now, I am going to the questions asked in the chat box. At the same time, I also urge students to write your question of you or you want to directly ask the question you can ask. So let me go to the questions. One question or
Yes, yes.
one or
But before they ask the questions, I would like to have some words for them, for the students. They
yes.
must ask the questions on the very topic that we discuss right now, not on the other aspects of Plato. Because unless they understand what he says on other aspects, they cannot raise the questions and they cannot understand what I will say.
Yes, you are right. But for that, student needs a different kind of socialization, and student must have the culture of expertise. I mean, asking question within the scope of lecture.
Yes,
It is
within the scope
also
of
a
the lecture.
it is also a art. So let's take some of the questions we need to address to the questions asked by. I mean, questions asked by the student at least to give a kind of inspiration to them so that they will feel that they are
Yes,
student, they are good student.
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
the first question is that Plato's concept of noble, which proposes that rulers deceive the people in order to maintain social order, has been criticized as being unethical and manipulative. Please explain. I think you have
I
already
shall
said.
answer these questions. You can also understand. You need not have to raise the question. You can understand it when you listen to my discussions on Plato's concept of philosopher king. The
Okay,
answers are within it, inherent in it. So wait for the time till I discuss it. This is just the
okay.
beginning.
Okay, the second question is that Plato's idea about the role of women in society
Yes.
have also been criticized, and he proposes that women should be treated as a property of their male guardians and should not be allowed to hold political office.
What does he read it? He can understand it when he will listen to my discussions on Plato's concept and
So
spin
I
master
think,
theory.
okay, this question is asked by Rajesh actually. Rajesh
Mhm.
Human, it is written. Rajesh,
Mhm.
I think you have to wait, you have to listen all the
Yes.
lectures, 8 hour lectures. Then I think, then you will realize whether your question is the right question or wrong question. Okay. Coming to the next question, sir, besides Socrates' death,
Hmm.
are there any other reasons for which Plato brutally criticized democratic government?
Yes, that is the only reason. The greatest man of knowledge was put to death by the democratic government of Athens in 399 BC. On a very flimsy church, very small church. The charge which could not be established of corrupting the youths. He was saying unconventional ideas, and therefore he was asked by the government of Athens that you must die.
No, I think Sumit, you need to understand here Socrates represents knowledge. So it
Yes,
was not the death of Socrates, it was the death of knowledge, and Plato was very much critical on that. So
yes,
any kind of democratic government, so the moment you attach democracy to your government and you are against knowledge, so it means it is undemocratic. So it appears to
certainly,
be
certainly.
democratic, but
Yes,
certainly no democratic government can go against knowledge. Democracy means appreciation of knowledge.
yes,
Appreciation of knowledge means uh, Socrates Jindabad, not Socrates Murdabad. Right.
yes,
That's it.
yes.
Okay, then Pratap is asking, sir, what is Plato's views on slavery?
You have to wait again till I complete the total discussions on Plato after 8 classes.
Okay, there is no other questions, but if our students, okay, Pratap, you can ask directly.
Yes.
You unmute your video and you can ask. Pratap was our student actually.
Hmm.
Okay.
Sir, first of all, both of you, sir, Juhar, sir. After a long time, sir, this is such a nice platform. We are at one place, sir. Still, I have remembered, sir, when you are taking Western Third Plateau, sir. It was so wonderful and nice, sir. But lots of questions are there, sir, during the different Bhava I attend, and
Hmm.
such question are there. But though you are just begins today, so after and the I will put the questions, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir,
It's all.
it will be better, sir. Beside the Western thought part, you must should highlight, sir, some philosophical part of Plato's, like four cardinal virtues, uh,
Yes.
sir, other aspect, sir. हाँ. So philosophical part টিকে sir अपन touch करबे बोले हेटा टी बोले.
I'm already discussing the philosophical part.
Sorry, sir,
Virtue is
actually, हाँ,
knowledge.
हाँ.
Virtue is knowledge. Ideal is real. This is the philosophical part which Plato inherited from Socrates.
Sir,
Pratap,
sir,
for me, people from philosophy department, they also take Plato.
sir.
So a political scientist, read Plato, understand Plato, take Plato in a different sense.
Sir.
Yes.
But I mean, is it right to ask a political science person to philosophically engage with Plato? So, I mean, it's not fair actually, but what you are asking, if you'll ask to a philosophy teacher, then certainly he will give a different kind of, test to you. Right. I understand that philosophy, political philosophy is a part of philosophy. It's
Sir.
not that political philosophy is distinct or exclusively different from the philosophy. The philosophical notion given by Plato, it has been used in his political philosophy as well.
Yes. That's
But
true.
today, but today I mean, not today actually. Being a political uh, person from political science, we try to understand the political philosophy, and to understand political philosophy of Plato, Sir is saying 8 hours, but one semester is also small, right?
Okay, sir.
If you'll engage with every political ideas given by Plato. So thank you, Pratap, thank you for your engagement. So any other students who are interested to ask?
Actually, sir, sometimes thoughts and philosophy are overlap, so that's why we
No,
get
no.
some.
We are interested in that part of philosophy which is related to politics.
Uh, okay, we will
Okay,
do
okay,
one
thank you.
thing. We'll do one thing, Pratap. Suppose we are discussing on a particular political, philosophy. Now, at that time, if we'll bring the interrelated philosophical part, whatever you are referring, then maybe at that juncture, sir will deal with your philosophy, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
okay
thank you,
then.
sir.
So,
Thank you.
and any other questions? So I think there is no question. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your engagement with us.
Yes.
And this is the end of today's session. And the next class, I will let you know once I will get confirmation from our speaker. So thank you. Thank you, one and all. Sir,
Thank
namaskar.
you. Namaskar.